I'd like to introduce to you Evan Klein, our founder and president of Satrix Solutions. And today he's going to be covering you have your survey data, now what? Evan.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Very good. We have a lively crew, which is good because post-lunch is always tough. So listen, you've seen a lot of slides already today, I'm sure. I'm going to tell you this first slide is one you're going to want to get your iPhones out, your iPads, take pictures. This is going to be one of the most meaningful slides you see all day. Okay, now, clearly what this shows is that customer success is, no, okay, let's get serious here. I was online looking about, the best practices in PowerPoint, and this one came up as obviously what not to do. So I'm not going to scare you with a lot of complex slides like that today. I do want to start with a few assumptions because as the title of the discussion today suggests, we're talking about everything that happens after you complete your survey. So once you already have all of your survey data, then what do you do with it? So a show of hands, how many folks in this room are involved in their customer survey program? Okay, most everyone, good, which is great to see. There are a lot of companies now that are implementing or administering some kind of customer survey. What we see, however, is that there's a lot of businesses that are leaving opportunity on the table with regard to that valuable insight that they're collecting. So you get all of this wonderful intelligence from your customers. Let's make sure we capitalize on it. Let's make sure that we take advantage of all that it has to offer. And that's primarily what we're going to be talking about. But we want to start with a few assumptions here. Because if you don't have these four things in place, then everything else that I'm going to talk about today is a waste of time. Okay, if you don't have a well-designed survey, a survey instrument that is in accordance with best practices, if you haven't invited the right folks to participate in your survey, if you don't have good response rates and a statistically valid sample, or if you don't have a program that avoids gaming of all kinds, then what you have is bad data. And if you have bad data and you're potentially making decisions based on bad data, then clearly that's a problem. So it's a classic case of garbage in, garbage out, right? And if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with the survey feedback, that is to take action to improve the customer experience, to modify or enhance your service delivery model. All of the things that hopefully this feedback is driving. Clearly, if you're operating based on false assumptions, that can be quite problematic. So we have to assume that these four things are in place. Please come talk to me if you ever want to share this in more detail. But with that assumption, let's dig in. What do you do now that you have all of this wonderful feedback? Well, of course, the first thing you do is you analyze it. Okay, now analyzing it, it can be quite a detailed process. You can look at a lot of different components, a lot of data elements, and you're somewhat like a private investigator. And the work that we do on behalf of our clients, that's how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as private investigators. We're combing through a lot of quantitative and qualitative data. Response to scale questions, we're looking at open-ended question responses, unstructured data, and we're looking for little kernels of truth. Something that's going to help us to make decisions. We're looking for themes and patterns that are bubbling up to the surface. We're looking for trending information, obviously, which is giving you a strong indication about how you're performing in the view and the eyes of your customers. So we're all like private investigators here. And when we look at this data, the first thing is, on a company-level basis, what is it telling us? Right? And so there's a lot of wonderful things you can do with company-level data. You have all of the data that you've received, all of your survey responses. Now let's make something of it. Let's create some pretty PowerPoint slides and graphs that we're going to make available to a lot of the people across the organization. And by the way, I do think aesthetics are important in this regard, right? Because you're going to be sharing this feedback with a lot of different constituents. It has to look good. It has to be professional, it has to be credible, it has to tell a story. If it doesn't, you're going to lose your readers, right? They're not going to take it as seriously. So we look at, for example, the distribution of responses. And this is, you'll probably all recognize the response to the Net Promoter question, how likely are you to recommend? So very simply, how many of your customers responded in each of those categories? We look at something called top two box. Another very prominent and well-known way of analyzing survey data. Of your respondents, how many of them selected the top box? Ordinarily, it's something like extremely satisfied, and the second box, which might be very satisfied. So if they're in that top two boxes, they're generally very happy. So let's look at that across all attributes. Let's look at that maybe from a trending perspective. Then, of course, you'll look at the average responses to different questions and how they compare and how they trend over time. You'll want to take all of your qualitative feedback, your unstructured data, and make something of it. That, by the way, is kind of tedious, right? How many people actually read through and create a code book of all of the verbatim commentary in their survey response data? Okay, only a handful of people. This is some of the most powerful and valuable insight that you receive in a survey. The scale responses are great. They enable quantitative analysis. They enable trending. They enable you to do all sorts of fun statistical analysis, correlation, and things of that nature. But the qualitative, where people take the time to type in their responses to open-ended questions, are really powerful. And you got to make sure you're doing something with that. You got to make sure you're analyzing it. And that sometimes requires spending time reading through and coding, creating themes and a taxonomy of what those themes are cropping to the surface. And essentially counting the number of instances that each one of those themes is found in the open-ended commentary. So this is how we take, the pie chart is how we convert the qualitative into quantitative, looking at those various themes in the buckets that you'll find. And then key driver analysis. One of the more important elements of statistical analysis of your survey data. If you look at all of the different attributes, which ones are going to potentially drive the most benefit for your business? And that's what the key driver analysis is going to tell you. So in that top left quadrant, these are the areas of your business that are potentially have the most improvement opportunity for your business and ultimately for the return on investment that you want to derive. So we can also look at standard deviation, which is the distribution of your results. So there's a lot of ways that you can cut and slice this data from a company level perspective. And it's incumbent upon anyone who's fielding a survey to delve into these and to learn, frankly, how to do them so that you're making something of it. You're turning all of that data into a story that you're then going to share with the appropriate people in your company. Now, you can also slice and dice the data in a lot of different ways beyond company level. And many of our clients really value this aspect of the service experience with our company because you can really drill down and look at some interesting cohorts across your survey data, across your customer base. So for example, if you segment the data by revenue bands, you can see of your larger revenue customers, how do they feel in contrast to your lower revenue customers? And you could start to look at the different revenue bands and in general what their sentiment might be. You can also look at it by product. So if you have multiple products that you offer, how do your customers for this product feel versus your customers for that product? And that is an interesting comparison that you can certainly by customer success manager. And we're not looking at this, obviously, to find those who are underperforming and move them out of the organization. We're finding these for the customer success people that are doing the best job. And what are they doing that we can replicate that success elsewhere? And are there people that need more training, that their customers, for some reason, are a little less satisfied? So you can really stack rank by your customer success professionals and find some interesting trends there as well. By tenure, your low tenured customers, those who are with you maybe 6 months or less, versus those who are with you for 2 or 3 years. Very valuable feedback that you can glean. By geography, by vertical, are your customers in this vertical, how do they feel in contrast to your customers in another vertical? So you can see you can really delve into this data in a lot of different ways. This by opportunity are your maybe tier 1 customers that have the biggest growth potential. What is their sentiment? How do they respond to certain questions? How do they feel about certain aspects of your business, the different attributes that are highly correlated with customer loyalty? So I encourage you to really drill down and segment that data in a lot of different ways that are meaningful for your business, not just for analysis paralysis reasons, right? You can really overdo it and go too far, but look at your business and how your company is making decisions, and then think about your survey data along those lines. Okay, so now we've analyzed the data on a company level and also by segment. Of course, now we have to close the loop. I imagine many of you guys have heard this terminology before. It's prominent in the Net Promoter world. Closing the loop simply means getting back to your customers after they've completed your survey. Making sure that they recognize you and your organization are truly committed to listening and to engaging and to collaborating and to co-creating. This is how you stand apart from every other of the thousands of companies that do surveys and never do anything with the data. You are going to stand apart by demonstrating that you are truly making a commitment. You're closing the loop, which suggests you're reading it and you're taking it seriously. So you close the loop with different groups, different constituents. First, of course, is the triage, those who are very unhappy, at risk of defecting, at risk for churn. If they respond to your survey, you should be responding to them and closing the loop within just a handful of days. 48 or 72 hours is best. If you can get on the phone, thank you for your feedback, let's talk about it. I see you're a little dissatisfied with this element of our business. How can we improve? What can we do to strengthen the relationship? So that's closing the loop with detractors, generally best conducted one-on-one. Either in meeting, in a quarterly business review, if that happens to be close proximity, or on the phone. So scheduling meetings specifically to talk about the customer survey feedback. Then you target your satisfied but unenthused customers, commonly referred to as passives in the Net Promoter construct. They are generally happy, but they might be receptive to competitors' outreach. If you try to raise fees, they might not be so receptive to your price increases. So these are folks you want to strengthen your relationship, get them into promoter status. And so you close the loop with them, talk about, hey, I see you're very pleased here, but what can we do about improving this aspect of our relationship? Then, of course, you move on to your advocates, your promoters, closing the loop with them. It could be in the form of a thank you letter. It could be in the form of a very nicely written email from a senior level executive. But it's important to activate or mobilize your promoters. Don't just take them for granted. There's opportunities there to leverage them for sales and marketing purposes, for testimonials, case studies, co-speaking engagements. Make sure that they know you love them, right? They obviously have an affinity to your brand and to your company. So it's incumbent upon you to make sure that you're engaging with them and potentially leveraging and capitalizing on your promoters. And then if you have the resources, and I recognize that not all companies can dedicate all the resources necessary to following up with all these constituents, but if you can, follow up with your non-responders as well. And in particular, your high-value non-responders. For these are folks who did not complete the survey, they may be checking out. They may be apathetic. They may all just also feel, hey, I'm pleased with what I'm doing. If anything changes, I'll be sure to tell you. So if you can have a conversation, a dialogue with them, that works out really well also. So closing the loop, very important. So now we get to the point where you've analyzed your data, you've done some closing the loop. You've got to share this feedback. It's got to be penetrate across the organization. I've seen too many companies where they have all of this wonderful insight and it's siloed, right? It resides within the customer success organization, maybe the C-suite, but there aren't a lot of people, departments and organizations that are capitalizing, that are taking advantage of this powerful input that your customer providing. So make sure it is cascaded across the organization. And this, by the way, requires some additional levels of reporting. So for our clients, what we do is we tailor the reporting so that it's receptive to the people and it resonates with the people in the different departments. So for example, your head of product or your product development team absolutely should be relying on customer feedback. You're going to get tremendous insights around feature functionality, around competitive landscape potentially, what some of your competitors may be doing that you're not. and they should be incorporating that into their roadmap thinking. If you look at the sales and marketing organization, often our clients, they're chomping at the bit, the sales and marketing team, to get their hands on this feedback. What is it about our value or about our product or our service that resonates with the market? What is it that's going to sell? What are our clients or our customers parroting back to us in the feedback? That's clearly that our message is hitting home with them. What are they saying about the competitive landscape? How do we stand apart? Or how do we maybe sound a lot like some of the other offerings that are out there? So you can see, even human resources, HR should be taking into account some of this feedback for promotions, for reviews, for hiring, right? You're going to hire specific people with certain personality traits, so they're going to know what your customers value as far as the interactions with your organization. So finance gets tremendous visibility into revenue and how much potentially is at risk or how much is going to be retained based on feedback from your surveys. So you can see how this is very valuable and actionable across the company. And many of our clients also, it goes up to the board of directors. So you have venture capital or private equity involved in your company. They want to see how your customers are feeling. They want to know that you're doing right by your customers. And so a lot of that is shared at the board level as well. So you shared it across the company. Of course, one of the reasons that we do any kind of voice of customer program is it's there to improve your business. So make sure you take action, right? So on the closed loop feedback, that's the one-on-one. That's what we call the bottom up, right? You're dealing with each customer on an account-by-account basis, and you're addressing their concerns. But from a top-down perspective, what is all this telling us? Do we have pain points that a lot of our customers are experiencing? Are there things that we could be doing that are going to benefit the lion's share of our customer base? So make sure that you're taking action based on all of the themes and patterns that emerge in your customer survey data. So some examples of this, and there are endless examples that companies, how they take action based on this feedback. But adding a product feature, strengthening the onboarding experience, enhancing communications with your customers, improving the support experience, establishing a community or self-help type offering, expanding training resources. These are just some examples of some of the things our clients have done based on the pain points that came through loud and clear in the survey feedback. And so when you're doing your private investigative work, you're going to find things that hopefully you'll be empowered to get resources, to allocate funding to improving the service experience along the lines of some of these examples right here. And then finally, use the feedback to strengthen your culture. Culture building is one of the most important aspects of a Voice of Customer program. You want all of your employees on board with what you're doing. You want everybody thinking about, what do I do to put my customer first? How do I really infiltrate this across my organization? It's part of our DNA. So the feedback that you receive in your Voice of Customer program should be used to reinforce that message and that culture internally. And so some examples of that: consistent communication of why customer feedback is so important, about how we think about our customers and put them first in everything that we do. That has to come from the top and should be a regular instance of communication from the C-suite. Leading by example, right? And there's lots of examples internally where you're doing right by your customers, standout stories that should be shared and reinforced. Rewards and recognition programs. Who's doing really well? Who's living by our values and meeting our promises that we're making to our customers? Those individuals should be held out as examples, right? They should get recognition and rewards in various forms. And it doesn't have to be very expensive. Storytelling is one of the most valuable components of culture building within any company. There's a lot of great stories. Stories from the survey, stories from quarterly business reviews, stories from on-site meetings that you have with customers, case studies. Make sure you tell those stories internally on a regular basis so that people start to really appreciate and understand. And then, as I talked about a moment ago, performance reviews. Make part of your performance reviews for all of your employees should be, what are you doing for the customers? What are you doing to put customers first? What are you doing to make sure that we are standing apart from the competition as far as our enthusiasm our customers have for our brand? So strengthen your culture. So those are some of the things that I encourage you all to think about. After you have all of that wonderful data, remember, interpret the feedback, share the insights across the company, focus on building a culture, and be sure to take action. If you're not going to take action, don't even go there, right? Don't even start asking your customers for feedback if you're not going to do something with it. You actually have the potential to harm yourself and your reputation more than if you do nothing at all. And with that, we have a booth down in the hall there, the sponsor hall, so I welcome you all to come by.